This podcast is a review of the Season 1 podcast of Serial. Hello, everybody. So this is based on all real facts and some of my own opinions regarding Adnan Syed's trial on the murder of Heyman Lee. If you haven't already heard all of the original podcast, then you should go listen to it. It's really good. So to sum some stuff up, Adnan Syed is a Muslim who lives in the United States and was born here. Because of his religion, he's not supposed to date, but he had a secret relationship with Heyman Lee. They had a relationship for a good amount of time, and they were off and on again, but they did end up broken up for good, and Hay ended up getting together with a guy she worked with, and his name was Don. Then, on January 13th, 1999, Hay went missing. She usually went to go pick up her younger cousin from school, but she never did. That's when her parents got worried and called the police, and the hunt to find Hay started. Then, on February 9th, 1999, her body was found in Lincoln Park by a guy that, in the original podcast, they called Mr. S. His identity was kept a secret on the podcast due to his problems with the law. He had a criminal record for streaking. Now we have 3 suspects, or more, that could have done it. Adnan, Don, Mr. S, and one other person I haven't mentioned yet. And this is Jay. Jay claimed to know that it was absolutely Adnan, but there were some things that were off and changed between his stories that he told the police, and things that didn't make any sense or just didn't add up. Now this is really suspicious. If you have heard all of the original podcasts, you know what I'm talking about. The one thing that he did know for a fact was where Hay's car was parked. Some things Jay said and claimed to be true were non-existent or impossible. Like he claimed there was a payphone right outside the Best Buy. And in his story, it might have been true, but with records, it says it didn't exist. Now this is weird. The next person we're going to cover is Mr. S. He found Hay's body. Now he was a suspect because of the way he found Hay's body. He was drinking a bit, and he really needed to go to the bathroom. So he stopped, walked into Lincoln Park to go pee. He noticed her body and called the police. Now, the way he found her body, you could say it was a miracle, maybe a coincidence, or just plain suspicious. Did he really just stumble upon her body, or did he do it? With his record, he was a big suspect until Jay came forward, and all suspicions went on to Adnan. Lastly, let's talk about Don, who was the current boyfriend at the time when he went missing. When he went missing, Don got a call from the police, and so he started to retrace his day, every little thing that happened, because he knew he'd be questioned. During the time that the state thought that Hay was killed, Don was at work. His time card and his manager were questioned, and it checked out. He was cleared, so scratch him off the list. Adnan got a call from the police too, but at the time he got the call, he was high. So he didn't think so much about to retrace his day, unlike Don. Adnan had described the day as perfectly normal, nothing really unordinary about it. Now what I really want to know is that in the original trial, why in the world did they not test the DNA? Like, Detective Work 101. If there's DNA, you should test it. The DNA is now over 17 years old, and it's still being held somewhere. And it still has not been tested. I feel like if they had tested the DNA, they may have found out who it really was, or if it was Adnan, or another person. The case could have been completely different. Maybe even another person would have been being convicted instead. So with all this information, what do you think? Do you think it was Adnan, or do you think it was some other person? Do you think Hay triggered her own murder? Or was it just a wild misfortune? Also, who really killed her? Lastly, will this case ever be solved? Who knows? So with all these questions, what do you believe? So, if you have not heard the whole podcast, listen to it. I ended up finishing it in 2 days. It was so interesting and engrossing. And thank you guys so much for listening.